On episode 510 of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet Sergey Young and discuss his book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young, an insider's guide to the breakthroughs that will dramatically extend our lifespan and what you can do right now. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/510. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. This episode of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is sponsored by Organifi. Organifi is a line of organic superfood blends that offers plant-based nutrition made with high-quality ingredients. Each Organifi blend is science-backed to craft the most effective doses with ingredients that are organic, free of fillers, and contain less than 3 grams of sugar per serving. They won't take you out of ketosis if that's your way of eating. Your body is an amazing organic machine. The food we eat and drink is information for that machine. This includes adaptogens. These are compounds that balance hormones and help you deal with stress in a healthier way. If you're feeling tired, these compounds will give you a boost of energy. If you're stressed, they'll help you return to a natural state of calm. They literally help you adapt to the stress of life. This is why I'm a big fan of Organifi green juice with essential superfoods and a clinical dose of ashwagandha. It helps reduce stress and support healthy cortisol levels. It mixes well with water or your beverage of choice, and it tastes awesome. This has become my go-to morning ritual. Organifi offers the best tasting, high-quality superfood beverages without breaking the bank. Each serving costs less than $3. Easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Go to www.organifi.com/40plus and use the coupon code 40plus for 20% off your order. That's ORGANIFI.com/40PLUS and use the code 40plus for 20% off of any item. Last week, I heard someone say Halloween is the start of eating season. Is that what happens to you too? How would you like to not be beaten by it this year? Introducing the 40 Plus Fitness Crush the Holidays Challenge. This 5-week challenge runs from November 20th through December 24th. Stay motivated with daily videos, surround yourself with like-minded people in a private Facebook group, and crush the holidays this year with me, Coach Alan. The cost of this 5-week challenge is $25. That's less than the cost for one pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks per week, and cutting just those 5 drinks will cut out 2,000 calories. Win-win. Oh yes, and win. There are weekly prizes, including some of my favorite health and fitness books, Amazon gift cards, 40 Plus Fitness swag, and one challenger will win an opportunity to do a 6-week 40 Plus Fitness online training program I'm launching in January, absolutely free. Go to crushtheholidays.com to join the challenge. Don't let the holidays put you further in the hole. Crush the holidays at crushtheholidays.com. Hey, Raz. How are things?
Good, Alan. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Kind of settling into my life back on the island, getting things going. Lula's is open, and I'm happy to say that Tammy got her first online reservation.
Wow, how exciting.
And so, yeah, that's looking at it there. I think they're staying later, like in December, sometime around, middle of December, something like that. But that said, everything went through. She sees the reservation. PayPal's, we're using that to process right now. She figures out the whole accounting and banking and credit cards acceptance, but basically ran it through PayPal and you can also use a credit card, but with PayPal because it's the way they're all set up. But yeah, so looks good. Looks like we're on track, and she's got herself a bed and breakfast.
Yay, that's awesome! Congratulations, that's so exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited for her because she's a little nervous about all this and how things are going to happen, and opening right as we go into the busy season. So it's not like she's we've run through with monthly renters. So as far as running the
Mhm.
bed, running the building, I think she's comfortable with that. But it's just going to be making sure that back end stuff of the booking and all that computer stuff is all working and people are
Sure.
finding it. So if you're interested in coming down to Panama, Lula's Bed and Breakfast in Bocas del Toro, and you can go to lulabb.com, and that's where you'll find her website. You'll see some pictures, see the rooms. You can book the rooms there. But and if you have any questions, just email us and message me, and I'll let you know what's going down.
Sweet. That sounds great.
How are things up there?
Good, good. Getting cold. Saw some frost today.
Run, run.
Yeah, run faster. Yeah. I'm in a taper right now. My last big race for the year is in a couple of weeks from now at the end of the month. And Mike and I both are actually running the Kelhaven. It's going to be about 33 and a half to my Garmin has said 34 miles. So it'll be my last big race of the year. I'm looking forward to it.
So Mike's going to do an ultra, huh?
He is. He's going to be officially
Good.
official.
Good
Yep.
on him. Put him in that 1%
Yep.
of 1% of runners out
That's
there
right.
that have done something like that. So good. I want to hear
Yeah.
how that goes for you.
Absolutely. Sure will.
Obviously cold, but
Yes.
because you're not going very far south to run
Right.
that one. So
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. I'm glad it's not going to be in the dead heat of the summer. So this will be nice, I think.
Yeah, mine was in March in Mississippi, so it wasn't too bad. But
yeah, it could have gone either way though.
Yeah. But it was in a pine forest, so it was humidity and heat would have been the only problem in a situation like that because not a lot of wind for the most part. But it was what it was. But good. So you got your big race coming up. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
All right, so let's have a conversation with Sergey Young.
Sure.
Our guest today is a longevity investor and visionary with a mission to extend healthy lifespans of at least 1 billion people. To do that, he founded Longevity Vision Fund to accelerate life extension technological breakthroughs and to make longevity affordable and accessible to all. He is on the board of directors of the American Federation of Aging Research and the development sponsor of Age Reversal X Prize global competition designed to cure aging. He has been featured as a top longevity expert and contributor on Fox News, BBC, Sky News, Forbes, and Thrive Global. With no further ado, here's Sergey Young. Sergey, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Hi, Alan. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I'm 40 plus, right? So I'm 49 and I'm turning my 50 in the next month. So
happy
I'm
birthday.
all for it.
Happy birthday. You. There you go. And I'm 55. So we keep you in the club even after you turn 50. So you're going to stay in with us. Okay.
Love it.
Now, your book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young, an insider's guide to the breakthroughs that will dramatically extend our lifespan. And now my favorite part, and what you can do about it right now.
Right now.
Because as I was reading through some of this, and you even acknowledged it somewhat, it sounds like science fiction. But, if I start thinking back to the science fiction I read when I was a teenager, Arthur C. Clarke and others, some of that stuff is actually happening right now. Well, we don't quite have flying cars like the Jetsons, but there's a lot of cool stuff that's happened just in the last 10 years that is really quite striking when you start thinking about where we were and how fast things are moving. And so, I was really, as I got into this, I was like, this is pretty exciting. And to know that, at 55, I'll probably see a lot of what you talked about in this book come true.
I agree. Yeah, we live in an exciting time. Like we can see in the next 5-10 years from now, we're going to see just a lot of transformational and fundamentally different things offered to us and massively available. And we're going to go today through the examples of what is on the horizon, and actually in two horizons, the near and far horizon of longevity innovation. But what is more exciting, there's so many things that we can do right now to stay on longevity bridge while we wait for all this revolution to happen. So let's cover this today as well.
Yeah. I think when we use the term longevity, it seems that most people will think, well, that's just living longer, which is not really all that exciting. Like the Queen song, Who Wants to Live Forever? the reality is nobody really wants to live forever if they just keep getting weaker and weaker and sicker and sicker. So in the book, you talked about the three dimensions of longevity. And I think all three of them are important if you're really going to have, I guess, what I would call good longevity, the right kind of longevity, not just longer, but better. And can you talk about those three dimensions of longevity?
Yes. So we actually use the term, like, in addition to lifespan, which is basically like quantity of your years, we use the term health span, which refers to quality of your years, or the years that you within your life, when you have kind of healthy and happy state. So that's important as well. The good news, like all of the technologies that we are supporting through Longevity Vision Fund investment, right, and through our pro bono work, they work both on health span and lifespan. It's not like we're just trying to add 5, 10, 20 more painful years to your life. So I think it's important to recognize. When you talk about three dimensions of longevity, I think it's very interesting to observe how the science of longevity and the science of medicine has changed through the last few decades. What we've done so far, and this is the first dimension, we've been just avoiding early death. That's like the sole focus of the medicine, the sole focus of like everything which we've been offered so far. And if you look at the figures, we've been pretty successful with that. So in the last 100 years, the average lifespan in developed world increased from 35, 40 years, 100 years ago, to 75, 80 years today. So we doubled our lifespan, average lifespan on Earth in the last 100 years. Well, this is the good news. Like the bad news, the maximum lifespan, which is today somewhere around 122 years to be precise, because of this beautiful French woman who died 20 years ago, was still the same. So what we've been doing, we're just moving statistical average. A lot of people avoid dying at early age, and obviously there was a huge impact of infant mortality, which was ridiculously high 100 years ago. And well, that's why this whole notion of medicine was just like making sure you don't die early. And currently, if you look at the 50 plus, like 90% of deaths are happening because of 4 diseases: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and neurodegenerative disease. So that's like 90% of that. This is our killer monster diseases. And I think we've done a lot in this field. What we haven't done so far is 2 other dimensions. One is life extension, just literally adding years to our life. That's one. And the third dimension, which is even more revolutionary, is reversing aging. Right now, we already know all 3,000 genes in our DNA, which are responsible for aging processes inside our body, and therefore they're responsible for longevity. So if you look at centenarians, or you look at genetic research of centenarians are people who live 100 years and beyond on this planet. They all, this 3,000 longevity genes tend to work better in their bodies. And so the idea is that if we can influence aging on many levels, including the genetic one, and make sure that all these 3,000 genes work in a proper way, we can actually become younger. And that's beautiful. You can do it on genetic level. You can do it on epigenetic level, right? Like the way these genes manifest itself inside our bodies. But even today, like on a lifestyle level, I've seen some studies where in the course of 8 weeks, simple changes in sleep, diet, physical exercise, only these 3 things, 8 weeks, reverse aging, reverse biological age of people in the study by 3 years. So they all became on average 3 years younger.
That's fantastic. And I like that you put sleep first, because I highly, as a personal trainer, everybody thinks that's kind of odd, but I I actually think sleep is the missing link for a lot of us as far as how
It
we
was the
manage our health.
biggest discovery for me. Sleep is like the last thing that we think about when we're trying to, redefine our lifestyle. And for me, the big change was actually reading Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. It was my book of year 2019. So right out before that, I was just borrowing hours from my sleep. I can do more sport. I can do more work. I can spend more time on traveling. And literally, I was just sleeping like 5.5 hours during like Monday to Friday. And after reading this book, my rule is 8 hours in the bed, which is at least 7 hours of sleep. And I used a lot of kind of devices to track my sleep. So like, Whoop, Apple Watch, Oura Ring, etc. So that's important. I do remember the quote from my discussion with Dr. Jack Cradle from London. He's the founder of one of the longevity clinics in London. So when we met first time, I'm asking Jack, what is the number one thing? What would, if you have literally 1 minute, what would you suggest? And he's like, Sergey, every evening we have an opportunity to visit the best clinic in the world. We go to bed and we sleep. And I thought, what a beautiful way to underline importance of sleep on our hormonal health, like on all other aspects of our health.
This episode of the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is sponsored by Organifi. Organifi is a line of organic superfood blends that offers plant-based nutrition made with high-quality ingredients. Each Organifi blend is science-backed to craft the most effective doses with ingredients that are organic, free of fillers, and contain less than 3 grams of sugar per serving. In our 24/7 always-on world, going without sleep seems to carry a badge of honor. But that's not how your body sees it. Sleep is when all the wonderful things happen inside your body. Hormones reset and the healing and restoration happens. You know how much better you feel when you have a good night's sleep. Getting good sleep is a priority for me. That's why I'm a big fan of Organifi Gold Juice. With ingredients like turmeric, reishi mushroom, and ginger, it's designed to support rest, relaxation, recovery, and repair. It's a delicious and nutritious warm golden tea. I use water, but you can also use milk or a milk alternative. This has become a part of my evening wind down. Organifi offers the best tasting, high-quality superfood beverages without breaking the bank. Each serving costs less than $3 per day. Easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Go to www.organifi.com/40plus and use the code 40plus for 20% off your order. That's ORGANIFI.com/40PLUS and use the code 40plus for 20% off of any item. Now, as we talk about longevity, and one of the things I think we look at is, we'll see that picture of the 95-year-old or 85-year-old woman who looks fit and is athletic, and she's out doing living like she's 30. And then you see the 85-year-old woman that's in a wheelchair and can't really stand on her own, and she's lost all of her independence. And so I think we look at aging as comparing those two people, but they're the same chronological age. So when we're talking about longevity, one of the concepts you brought up in the book by Carlos Lopez Oten was the 9 hallmarks of longevity. And I think the reason I'd like to talk about these is because if you're starting to put together a strategy for your health, for your wellness, it's really important for you to understand the underlying tenets of what's going to help you get there, and why these things are so important when we're talking, we're just talking about sleep. What does sleep allow us to do? Balance our hormones, get our energy systems working, our mitochondria resting and doing their thing. And so can we talk just go through them pretty quickly, but just overview of what they are, the 9 hallmarks.
So for many centuries and decades, we've been trying to find and develop unified theory of aging, and we failed. There is no unified theory of aging today. You ask different people in scientific circles, and they would give you the different answers. So there are still a lot of people are working on that. but what we currently use in terms of scientific framework for our effort to reverse aging and fight age-related diseases. The thing which was published, I think it was back in 2013, and it's called 9 Hallmarks of Aging. And I do think it was pretty important work by a number of reasons. So one thing, it shows you that you need to look to basically all of them. There's no silver bullet for human health and performance and fighting age-related disease or the aging processes in your body. It's not going to be like in 5, 10, 20 years from now, it's not going to be like one silver bullet and one solution to aging. You always need to appreciate the complexity of human biology and looking at the problem of aging or your health and performance through different lenses, and they all complementary. And probably in your work, Alan, you've seen it a lot. People kind of asking you like, what are the one thing that I need to do to change my life and improve the level of my health and physical health and mental health? There's no such a thing like one thing. So the first important thing about 9 hallmarks of aging is the fact that they nine of them, and they mutually non-exclusive, right? They complementary. If you can use complementary in the context of aging and age-related diseases. So second thing, it gives all of us investors, entrepreneurs, scientists an opportunity to look on a more comprehensive scale and influence different parts of it and appreciate the complexity of this whole thing. I just want to, I want to give our audience the flavor of what are the components, what are the dimensions of aging, on what levels they're happening inside our body. So the first thing is it's called genomic instability, right? Is basically mutations of our DNA, of our genetic code inside our body, and sometimes they occur when we were born, right? So we kind of inherited this from our parents. Sometimes it happens because of the external environmental or our lifestyle choices influence as well. But I mean, if you ask scientists, many of them would say that our longevity and level of health and actually happiness, like 30 to 40% predetermined by our genetic setup. And we've done a lot of progress in this field. Like 30 years ago, it took 13 years and $3 billion for US to sequence human genome. Right now, it's just a few $100s and few hours. So that's really important. And as always, you've probably seen it in so many cases. Like the first step is just literally understand that. So sequencing human genome was like important first step to develop gene editing and gene therapy on the later stage. So that's one thing. Well, second thing is it is about telomeres, and some of you probably heard about telomeres before. So telomeres in a very simple way, it's almost like protective caps of our chromosomes, right? So so what they do, they protect chromosomes, but then when cells are going through divisions, right, they basically worn out, and it's actually limit like a number of times our cell can divide. And with the time, what is happening is attrition of telomeres, with protective caps, and that's why we kind of becoming older, and then finally we die. The third one, and we already touched on this a little bit in the beginning of our conversation, is it's called epigenetic alterations. But what it really does is, like, remember we discussed genes, but like genes are expressing themselves inside our body through the very complex mechanism. I'll not go into details of that right now, but what is actually happening is you can basically influence the way certain gene or genetic combination express itself in the body. So you don't need to change your genetic setup. right? You just literally can switch on, switch off some of the genes. And with the time, specifically in the last probably 5-10 years, we've seen a lot of positive developments in this field. So think about, like, one thing is to change your genetic setup and a genetic code. And this is really important. And this is really expensive, sometimes inefficient, difficult, and risky. Well, the other thing, if you can have an opportunity or ability to switch on, switch off some of your genes, that's a different level of complexity. It's still difficult, but it's much easier than just changing your DNA. So that's important as well. What else? You've heard about mitochondria in our cells. So mitochondria is almost like a power plant. This is the thing which are responsible for bringing the energy in within the cell. So sometimes what is happening, they become dysfunctional because of the disease or particular medical condition, and it's obviously changed the whole work of the cells and then aging process starts inside your body. What is more interesting, like stem cells exhaustion. So sometimes the stem cells, which are responsible for our immune system, overall inside our body, we just run out of it. And I don't know if you heard about the organ called thymus. It's right here in our chest. Until we turn somewhere around 20, thymus are in kind of good, healthy condition. It's actually responsible for like high immune level that the younger adults and kids have. Starting from age 18 or 20, thymus starts to shrink. So therefore, your immune system has started to degrade, if I can use this word. And therefore, it produces less and less of the stem cells, and therefore it has lower ability to fight external and internal enemies inside your body and inside your mind, actually, as well. And I'm just looking at this 9 hallmarks. What I find also interesting is, there's a hallmark related to cellular senescence. So it's basically when we're losing the ability to take away dead cells outside our body. They just they just waste, and the volume of dead cells are increasing inside our body, and therefore it negatively influences a lot of processes inside our, first, healthy body. So it's basically, there's a number of hypotheses and number of ideas why we age, but I do think it's just very interesting to look at this from a different perspective and understand there are so many things that you need actually to influence in parallel at the same time to fight aging. And we're looking at the companies and probably all 9 of these hallmarks, and it's really interesting how science and technology can help us to fight aging inside our body on many levels, on like genetic level, epigenetic level, on cellular level, etc.
Yeah, and like you said, everybody wants a simple rule. Give me one thing. Tell me what to do, and we can see it's really not that simple. But it's not outside of our control. And particularly as technology gets better, I think we're going to see better opportunities for us to fine tune like all of these knobs. It's just don't be thinking about, okay, I got one knob that does everything, the steering wheel. Now you're going to be able to turn all of them. And that's where I want to talk about this concept of precision medicine or personalized medicine that you've probably heard some things about. But the gist of it is this: normally you go into your doctor and you tell your doctor what's going on. He does a couple things, maybe a couple tests, and then he comes back and says, okay, we're going to try this. And this that he's giving you, the pill or whatever the treatment is, it helps 80% of the people.
Yep.
And that means 20% of the people it doesn't help. And so you try that and it doesn't agree with you or it doesn't work. And now we've got to try something else that helped 80% of the people and it didn't help 20%. And then there's a third thing we can try, and on and on and on. But with precision medicine, we're getting closer and closer to understanding why it doesn't help those 20% and why it does help those 80%. And as the result, they can go directly to maybe medicine number 3 and make that work. Can you talk a little bit about why we're able to do precision medicine now, and what are some of the things coming up that's going to make it even better?
So we're talking about completely different approach to medicine. And this is happening already, and it's the whole transformation will happen in the next 10 to 20 years. And it's happening with like the main fundamental reason is that finally we have an ability to process data related to human health. And before that, it was all in the head of the doctor, right? That he or she would need to like quickly grasp like what is the problem with you, recall from his or her memory like these symptoms. They usually mean that you're suffering from that, and that. And it was just a hypothesis, right? You can go through a certain diagnostic. It was pretty generic. And then there's like a set of protocols, like, you know, for this disease, you can try this, this, and this. It usually works for like 60 or 70% of people. You're right. And
I guess I was just a little optimistic, but
yeah, that's true. I mean, we've seen therapists which are working like 40 to 50% of people sometimes. So this is what happened so far. And as you can see from my description, it was very symptomatic. So you would need to live with the disease until disease will manifest itself. And in some of the diseases, some of the indications, it's solvable, but in some it's like dangerous, like cancer. Cancer, just a few decades ago, was case of that, because people discover that usually in it's like stage 4 when disease manifests itself. There was not a lot of diagnostic developed for that, diagnostic tools developed for that. And they all, pretty expensive, invasive, like colonoscopy, gastroscopy, some of the cancer markers, and a blood test. So what is happening now? Well, the beauty of this, like early detection and prevention of the diseases, give us much better chances for recovery and sustaining the quality of life. So stage 4 cancer, survival rates are 10, 20, 30%, depending on the cancer type, right? I'm just generalizing it, but that's simply the figures. So this is what happens when you just wait until disease will manifest itself at the level when you just decide to see a doctor. Like early detection of cancer, it's like stage 1, for example, recovery rates for some of the cancer types are 90 or even 100%. Well, that's amazing. And what is more important, it's cheaper to treat early stage cancer, and it's much more effective in terms of sustaining the quality of your lifestyle. So that's beautiful. So how are we doing this these days? Well, first of all, it's just a lot of it's generating and taking a lot of data. The whole feedback loop, feedback cycle, and our ability to grasp this data is changing. Like I'm wearing like Whoop and Apple Watch. You can wear Samsung Watch or Fitbit. It doesn't really matter. Our wearables are becoming personalized healthcare devices, and things will change. Right now, I'm using this to count like 10,000 steps a day. So you can use Apple Watch to do electrocardiogram, to detect 5 different type of arrhythmia. Or, I mean, if you fall down on the street, it can call ambulance for you. So that's just the early signs of this becoming diagnostic devices. And so a lot of data needs to be collected and can be collected today through different diagnostic tools, including wearables, DIY boxes, etc., and or like full body MRI, CT, etc. So that's kind of one thing. This whole feedback cycle is compressed. You can actually detect a problem really early rather than wait for your annual discussion with doctor and see if something wrong with your body. Second, we finally have artificial intelligence to process all this data. And this is extremely important. Like, I mean, if you look at statistics, I know the figure for US. I think it was 25 to 30% of all data in US are health related. It's just massive amount of information, which there's no way the human being can process that, even in the context of one person. So that's the beauty. Like last 2 years, when I've done annual screening, my full body MRI was first scanned by artificial intelligence. And then I had a discussion with radiologist. And just to give you a little bit of flavor of that, average radiologist working under time pressure, which I would assume their everyday condition, can detect early stage breast cancer from MRI, from a scan, in 38% of cases, because it's early stage, right? You're not sure, or it's not detectable with human eye. But if you empower the same person with artificial intelligence, the detection rate goes up to 98 to 99%. Can you imagine that? So that's the beauty of that. And then yeah, I mean, and this is we're talking about MRI. You know, we have a lot of diagnostic tools right now. You can look at your genomic setup. You can look at your microbiome, and we just go on and on. There's so many data we can collect about our physical and even mental health, which is like super helpful to define the therapy, the intervention for you personally. So it's much earlier. It's much more personalized. It's obviously data driven and technology based. So that's like a new version of medicine that we are currently creating.
Yeah, and it does the huge thing of eliminating human error in most of these cases, because it's got a lot more capacity than any of us would have, even as a collective group. It's going to outperform us.
It is. So the other important thing is actually it's not only eliminating human error, but it leaves human like the most interesting and enjoyable part of work, right? You don't need to spend like 13 minutes to go through the scan. You can enjoy, you know, I enjoy discussion with my radiologist for like 30 minutes. And this is amazing. More human interaction, more focus on your needs, on your particular situation, and, you know, more emotions. And what I also like about this whole thing, there's more convincing power that I can get from this conversation with doctor. Like he or she can tell me like, well, Sergey, you need to change that, and that, you know, try this change. So I'm on the path for like improvement and optimization, and doctors can spend more time working with me, trying to convince me and support me on this path.
Cool. Now, another topic I wanted to get into, and just to preface this, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. You're not a medical doctor. So we're just talking about this from the perspective of just understanding what this is, and maybe some of the issues that'll come up with it, is stem cells. So more and more we're hearing about these stem cell treatments. As you said in the book, only a fraction of them, a small number, have been FDA approved. So there's these people popping up with stem cell therapies, and they're very promising. You know, the science is extremely promising. They can show you study after study after study that shows really great things, but it's not all upside. But in the future, it might be a very important therapy. Can you talk a little bit about just generally what it is and what we should be watching out for if that comes up in a conversation with our doctor or a clinic?
Okay, so stem cells. Well, these are the cells which has the potential to develop itself into, you know, any other different type of cells in our body, right? So they're pretty generic. They are responsible for our immune function, and they basically serve as repair system inside your body, right? So they can become, specialized, like become a blood cells, or muscle cells, or brain cells, and that's really important repair mechanism developed for us by Mother Nature. So having said that, so that's important, and it's great that we discovered a number of interventions and treatment and approaches to use stem cells in treating different conditions. So that's kind of good news. The bad news, they still at really early stage of going through the trials, and really early stage of regulation. So I do believe that if you have particularly a difficult condition, and it's matter of life and death for you, you can take a look at stem cells, treatment and interventions today. So you just need to be much more considerate with your choices of treatment. For the rest of us, I do think it's kind of okay to wait another 5 to 10 years until all of this will go through FDA approval cycle, and we'll get more clarity not only on kind of potential benefits of using stem cells treatments, but on potential downside effects as well. So, and that's why, like, as you can imagine, right, I'm part of longevity community. I'm really passionate about this whole thing. I've been offered so many times to do stem cells. And what I don't like, well, Sergey, we cannot do it in US. Come to, I don't know, Costa Rica or Panama. Or in Bahamas, and we're gonna do it there. Like, why should I? So I'm 49, and I do believe that at least for another 10, probably even 20 years, a combination of my lifestyle intervention, early diagnostic, use the benefit of technology, which technology can offer to us today, is a great plan to stay on longevity bridge. And in 5, 10, 15 years from now, that we're going to see more regulatory approvals in the field of regenerative medicine, whether it's stem cells or organ regeneration or organ replacement, and a lot of different things. And not only that, like the major part of my book about the near horizon of longevity innovation. Yeah, so you've seen it, Alan, and a number of chapters. Then we go through like DIY diagnostic, regenerative medicine, genomic medicine, like which is gene editing, gene therapy, etc. And this is all very promising. What I like that we're going to see almost like a mix, a combination of different breakthroughs in different areas, which can be used for our specific situation. Like the other thing which we will see in the next 10 years is longevity in the pill. So it's going to be new, completely different class of drugs, which would address aging problem in its core. So right now, like every drug should have an indication on, and it should fight particular disease. They disease specific, but we're going to see completely different drugs which will influence aging processes inside our body, and therefore will help us to fight and minimize risk of getting age-related diseases, as we discussed, as cancer, heart disease, diabetes, neurodegenerative diseases as well. So I'm really excited. It can be existing drug repositioned and repurposed, like metformin, the old diabetes generic drug, or rapamycin, immunosuppressant, or it can be drug developed with the help of artificial intelligence. Like in Longevity Vision Fund, we invested in 2 companies which use artificial intelligence to compress the drug discovery cycle, and they do impressive things. And for the audience to know, like developing a drug is like super expensive exercise. It's like in the US, it's 12 years, it's $2.6 billion for the average drug to develop. So our AI technology, big data, will help us to compress this process and make it cheaper, more efficient as well. But there's so many exciting things happening. Like my other favorite example is what we discussed in the field of gene editing and gene therapy, like genomic medicine. Remember the case that I brought that, first human genome has been sequenced in the course of 13 years. They actually wanted to stop, I think, after the first 2 years of the exercise, because in the first 2 years, they managed to sequence only 1% of genome. That's it. The whole story is in the book. It's amazing. Like, fast forward today, we are all participating in the global experiment in the field of gene therapy, because mRNA vaccines like Moderna, some other COVID vaccines are the outcome of gene therapy work. And well, for me, it's positive. Not sure about the rest of the audience. And like, I was just looking at the article a couple of months ago, and it starts with Moderna vaccine has been developed in the course of 2 days. This is amazing. They put a lot of work before that, right? It's probably was decade plus, even more, and a lot of great scientists and entrepreneurs work on that. But just an ability to develop vaccine against the new virus, and I think we managed to sequence genome of the virus in the course of days, if not weeks, after we discovered that this dangerous thing called COVID is here on the planet. So this whole COVID response, I do know there's just a lot of skepticism and criticism in almost every country that I went in terms of the COVID response, because we were fighting with a known enemy. But the rest is like, it's just amazing. Like, see how fast we've been able to sequence genome, develop different tests to test against coronavirus, develop vaccines. So I'm really amazed by our ability to respond. Like 100, 200 years ago, if we would have COVID on Earth, 25 to like 50% of population would just die.
Yeah, it would have been so much different than the Spanish flu, which, that we just toughed out for the most part, and did some things, but in a 2-year process, which I guess we're going to go through a 2-year process here too. But in the realm of it, you're right. We do have to kind of open our minds to the fact that medicine will move faster, not slower. Things are going to be introduced that are brand new, that we would never have conceived of even years ahead. In the book, you talked about the first, the Orville brothers and flight, and how it was 500 years in the making. And they went against the paradigm, which was you have to flap like a bird to build an airplane. And even after they flew, it took a long time for people to recognize that that's actually still possible. It's possible. Just because one person did it, they didn't feel comfortable that everybody should do it. And now almost all of us at some point in our life, anyone listening to this podcast, has gotten into an airplane at one point in their life and traveled across the country. And it's opened us up to all these freedoms and opportunities to see things we never would have seen in the past, not without huge time investment. And so I think that's the concept here. That's what's so exciting about your book. You give us the near term, and we would be on this call for hours if I went into the long term, because that's so exciting. I wouldn't let you off the call. Just want you to know.
Look, I'm going to be living another 150 years, and majority of us going to be living longer, or radically longer than we expect. So we have time, Alan.
Yeah, we have time. Then I'll get you on again. We'll talk about that. Sergey, I define wellness as being the healthiest, fittest, and happiest you can be. What are 3 strategies or tactics to get and stay well?
Mine. Okay, number 1, it's importance of early diagnostic. And I always say, like, the most important day of your life every year is the day of your medical screening. I do think it's super important. We underestimate. You can even imagine, I'm an investor, I'm not MD. I saved so many lives just by pushing people doing screenings. So that's one. The second, I think, is importance of the diet. And we delegated all our diet choices, like in terms of quantity and quality of our food, to other parties, like, big food, supermarkets, government, etc. So it's time to take back control and recognize the importance of the food. And this is like the easiest way to influence our epigenome. This is the easiest way to make us healthy, and body response to that is just amazing. Like if you switch to more plant-based, I'm not saying you need to like become vegetarian or vegan, you need to be like religious about this whole thing, but just like decreasing your caloric intake, fasting, doing more plant-based, looking at the not only quantity but the quality of your food, avoiding growth hormones, antibiotics, and E. coli bacteria in industrial meat and fish. It was a source of one of the most enormous change that I've went through while responding to high cholesterol crisis that I had back in 2014. And the third thing is just recognizing this whole connection between mind and body. So our health and the way we age and our biological age, like how young or how old we are, is very much defined by our psychology as well. It's extremely important. So my mantra, I know it's completely irresponsible, like to dream about living 200 years today. Like there's no way, given today's science and today's technology, I'm going to be living to 200 years. But like every morning I wake up, my mantra is like, I'm going to be living 200 years in the body of 25 years old man. And your body responds to that. I mean, look at the book. I think this part of the book called Think and Grow Young. And there's so many studies, like if you literally believe that your age is 5, 10, 15, even 20 years below your calendar chronological age, you will become younger. That's amazing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I signed up for a Tough Mudder in August. So I'm training for that now. But it's so funny because all of my friends that are around my age, like, you're too old to do that stuff. And I'm like, but it's fun. And I'm excited about it, And so, yeah, I completely agree there. Those are wonderful. Thank you, Sergey. If someone wanted to learn more about your book, The Science and Technology of Growing Young, or just learn more about you, where would you like for me to send them?
So, the book is available everywhere. It's called The Science and Technology of Growing Young. It's an important tool for me to change the world, to change our mindset, to push more of us to take back responsibility and control for our health and be excited about the future and recognize like these new developments in medicine. And it's been already on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, USA Today bestseller, #1 on Amazon in multiple categories. So I'm like really happy. This is the easiest way to connect with me, to understand, well, my religion, my promise and exciting things which we can do today and in the next 10, 20 years. You can go to sergeyyoung.com and sign up for the mailing list. Like every month we're sending out amazing newsletter, translating science in the very simple words to more exciting news. And I couldn't tell you the statistics about this, but I was just looking at statistics for newsletters all around the world. We have one of the highest open rates and click rates, and people are like really excited. And I'm not selling anything. I'm an investor, right? I'm just trying to change the world, to bring affordable and accessible version of longevity. So sergeyyoung.com, sign up for newsletter, or sergeyyoung200 on Instagram.
Well, Sergey, I really appreciate your mission. Thank you for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness.
Thank you, Alan. You're doing a great job. So thanks for help all of us to spread this message across. And I just wanted to thank our audience for being with us today. Stay healthy and happy.
Welcome back, Raz.
Hey, Alan. That was a really exciting and interesting conversation about longevity. Actually, I don't think I've ever thought about how you can define aging, the aging process. I just never gave it a thought, actually.
Well, you'll see it on Facebook all the time. They'll show you these memes where there's a woman that's 85 years old and she's still a professional bodybuilder, and then a woman who's 85 years old and is about ready to kick the bucket. Right. You see it all the time because we're all on our own aging curve, and some of that is defined by how our genes, but they're finding more and more it's really lifestyle choices that we've made all along the way that determine how quickly we get to go down that curve and how fast that curve crashes to our end state. And if you're doing the right things for your body, you can do some things to extend it. We talked earlier, and it was mentioned on the podcast that just doing some exercise, eating right, sleeping, doing those basic blocking and tackling things of that we talk about here every single week, add years to your life.
Well, Sergey said sleep, diet, and exercise, even for as little as 8 weeks, can reverse aging by 3 years. I've never heard that before. And that's astonishing.
Well, we saw it, I don't want to get too deep into this, but we saw it in COVID. If you have comorbidities, then COVID is a scary thing. And age is one of those comorbidities, but you see plenty of people in their 80s and 90s that lived through it. Okay. They got COVID and they maybe suffered a little bit, but they came out. Maybe didn't even have to get hospitalized in some cases. But if you had a comorbidity, if you weren't taking care of yourself at some point in your life and you find yourself further and down below that aging curve, then it's a killer. It's a killer straight out. And so it's just kind of one of those things of the better you take care of yourself each day, the more likely you are to have another one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes.
And that was one of the principles of why he's believing that, 150, 200, or even permanence, being effectively immortal, he believes that those are possibilities for the human race, because if science moves fast enough to add one more year within a year, then you've effectively pushed your age, your expiry date, if you will, one more day. And that one more day means they get one more day to have science to solve the next thing that would kill you. And it's literally, so, we think about in terms of, okay, what's killing us? Heart disease, cancer, medical malpractice, the things that are killing us, most of them are lifestyle choices. But that said, if you can have a newborn that's born and you're feeding it the exact diet that individual baby needs throughout its entire life, it's eating exactly the nutrition that it needs, then it's going to be a healthy baby. It's going to be a healthy teen. It's going to be a healthy young adult. It's going to be a healthy older adult. And the other things that would kill us, we start dealing with. They have artificial hearts now. They have artificial hips. They have artificial knees. And so the basic principle being, they don't know where the limit is, or if there even is a limit to what the human being can live, because we haven't really pushed the envelope all the way. We've doubled our life expectancy in less than 100 years. And that's just because mostly people aren't dying as babies, but beyond that, it's people are living longer, and we see it. We see more centenarians than there ever have been. And you start asking them what they're doing, and they're not necessarily doing anything special. They drink a glass of whiskey and drink a cigar every night. You're like,
you never know.
Okay, well, I don't think that's great health advice, but it obviously didn't kill them.
It worked for them. Yeah.
So, and that, that kind of takes me to the next thing is, well, we don't even know right now why that is, why someone can do something, or why something works for someone and doesn't exactly work for someone else. And that's where the precision or personalized medicine, to me, is maybe the most exciting thing out of all of this, because with artificial intelligence and all the data and things we know, he talked about the hallmarks, and you think about all those hallmarks. And if you were capturing that data for everybody or most people, the data that you would have available and the things you would know about someone when they walk in there, it's the person comes in with the rare disease. And there's no way this particular doctor would ever have seen it, because it happens to 1 in 100,000 people. And so he hasn't had 100,000 patients in his career yet. So he probably hasn't even seen anybody with this problem. And he's stumped because the symptoms, it's a if then that symptom, try this, symptom, try that. That doesn't work. Symptom, try that. And so what we're going to have with precision medicine is this opportunity for someone to walk in and all that data be there, the blood labs, the microbiome, the genetic, all of it is all in there. And they're like, oh, you have a predisposition for this particular problem, and that's why you're having this symptom.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could just say something simple: stop drinking milk, and we're going to compound you something that you take for the
Mm-hmm.
next so many months or years, maybe, or maybe it is something you might have to take permanently. But at least at that point, they know that it's worked for people with
Mm-hmm.
your situation, and how often, and the likelihood based on your genetics and your blood type and everything, how it's going to work for you. And then over here, they know they're not giving you too much, and they know they're giving you the right doses. And they've said, okay, your opportunity for side effects is much, much lower.
Oh gosh, that would be amazing to have all of that data aggregated into somebody's AI platform. And it would be so helpful, just like you said, with the side effects. You go in and you've got a problem, a gallbladder problem or a heart disease or something. And if they could look at things like your blood glucose or your cholesterol levels, maybe they could fine tune the medicine that you need to help to get healthier without having all of the weird side effects that are out there.
Yeah, and it will trickle down to everything. So, like, here's an example: maybe you just have hay fever,
Yeah.
and you get the runny eyes, the runny
Mm-hmm.
nose, the itchy, the sneezes, and all that. And you go into your pharmacy, and based on your medical stuff, all that data, and you step on a scale, and they say, okay, this is how much you weigh today. This is the exact dose of medication you need. It's probably still antihistamine, but it's the antihistamine that's
Mm-hmm.
going to work best for you. So it's a particular one,
Mm-hmm.
compounded a certain way at a certain dose, and just enough pills to get you through what you're dealing with. So you don't end up with all these expired things in the medicine cabinet goes away because you don't need
Mm-hmm.
it anymore to store
Right.
things that okay, I'm probably going to get it again next year, but you only need 3 pills and you make it through the pollen season and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. You got 3 pills at the perfect dose for you,
Oh my
specifically for
gosh.
you. And it helps eliminate errors. It helps eliminate
Mm-hmm.
overdosing. It helps eliminate
Overdose.
a lot
Yeah.
of this if then then that. They'll probably even know things like what's the propensity for you to be addicted to opiates, and what exactly how much pain medication does someone in your situation need
Mm-hmm.
to get there. So it's not one of these, the doctor's overshot on the opioids because it was easy. You're in pain. Here's an opioid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I need okay, and then they overdose or they
Mm-hmm.
they get addicted, and then the other side of it is now they're afraid to give you pain medication at all.
Yeah.
So they're on the exact opposite swing. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
with AI, it's an AI driven decision. The doctor is there as a judgment call to say, hey, is this the right thing? And then they can sit there and spend that 3 to 7 minutes they have with you and just really talk about the risk of taking opioids. They say, well, AI says it's probably not a problem for you. So here's, a week's supply. If you don't need them all, please bring them back to the office so we can discard them
Oh
properly.
gosh. Yeah.
You know,
Wouldn't that be nice?
right. And they give you just enough. The dosing is just right for you. And so that you're getting the pain medication that you need without a lot of the risks, side effects, and all that. So,
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity there is there. And, obviously people are working towards this because there's money involved in medication. There's money
Mm-hmm.
involved in healthcare. And so people are working toward it, and one of his things was he was really wanting to see when the medical society, when they'll start actually recognizing aging as an illness, as a way of dying. Almost no one
Mm-hmm.
ages out at this point.
No.
So very few people, very little money relative is going into aging. Whereas you talk about cancer research, heart, disease, so much money is pouring into those because they're seen as the killer in this. But at some point, hopefully, with AI and everything else that's going in there, they'll start solving that problem. Why does this chemo work for this one and not for that one? And what's the best chemo for you? And what's the best
Mm-hmm.
treatment protocols? That starts working and they become less and less a factor. There's still probably just going to be a point where someone just takes their last breath.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, okay, so he's looking at it and saying when aging is not just a comorbidity, because they will put that on your death certificate. If you're just really, really old and have cancer, they might put that on your death certificate, but he wants it to be a medical classification. So businesses will start trying to solve aging as a problem. He invests in those types of companies, but they're little bitty companies, tech companies typically, that are coming out with these things. And so it's the science is there, but there needs to be more money behind it before it really becomes the thing.
Yeah, it's a big project though, because I can just think all of my medical records, everything's electronic now. I don't know when electronic health records became mandated, and it might have been a state by state thing, but I probably have, maybe 10, 15 years of electronic records, but they're spread all over the place because I've moved. But if someone could aggregate my data, even just my data from the different networks that I've had medical procedures done in, it sure would present an interesting picture for a doctor or even this AI to mash through and see what's in there and what they could pull out of that. So
Yeah.
it really would be fascinating.
And that's what it'll be. They'll say, okay, someone with this genome, with this microbiome, that's this age, these are the elements and things that they're most likely to see. You could, know, okay, yeah, we talked about colonoscopies and screenings and things like that. You could know, okay, I need to go at age 45 and get screened.
Sure.
And maybe it's even something simple where you just know, okay, every year I got to get screened for something or the other because I'm at higher risk because of all the stuff we know about it. But you're improving your diet, you're improving your exercise, you're trying to sleep better, you're doing stress management, you're doing those lifestyle blocking and tackling things and not waiting for science to catch up to you.
Right.
There are things we can do today and we need to be doing today, which is why I think you guys are going to really enjoy the episode next week with Del Toro. He's exciting. He's fun. It's about mindset. But he talks about it. It's like you've got to lean in. You've got to put the weight on this. You got to make this happen. And he's absolutely right. So, just realize, don't wait for this science to come up and save you, help you live longer, live better, the types of things we talked about, the 3 dimensions of aging. Don't wait for that to happen. Every action you take today is a part of making those things happen.
Well, I'm really inspired by the existing genetic technology today. And I think after listening in, I'm going to talk to my doctor about having my genetic testing started. And if I can get my mom and my daughter to get their genetic testing done, it sure could paint a very interesting picture of our personal health. And, who knows, between my mom's data and my data, that could help my daughter with her health and fitness in the future.
Oh, absolutely. And, data is going to be important. They won't have any, they might have some data on me. I don't know, but because I've been all over. Like you, I've scattered, and
yes,
in some cases, I don't think there was a computer record at all that I was ever there,
well, yeah.
especially down here.
Yeah, no.
But that will be important. And if you have a history of something, it's worth definitely, and you do. So it's definitely worth going in and trying to get some of that data. Not to panic, not to freak out, but just to say, okay, am I doing the right things? Am I getting the right screenings? And those things we should be doing, we know we should be doing. That's going to be important. So
for sure,
if you like real science, it's some of it's science fiction-y because it's just we can already do some of this stuff. We just haven't heard about it. And he's in the forefront of this because he's an investor in that space. So he's giving people money on the front end to do some of these things. So and he does have this premise that he believes at some point we might just be immortal. That we just continue to exist. We have our normal life and we have our normal reproductive years, and then we can continue. And if you think about some of the most brilliant people or some of the most kind people or some of the most wonderful people that you've known, if they could have lived another 50 to 100 years, what would we be able to accomplish on this planet with the people? Now, There's a lot of ethical things. He gets into some of that in the book too, about living forever. And what that constitutes, and is this something that just the rich people are going to be able to afford to do versus everybody else, and all of those things he has a lot of that in there too. So if you like geeking out about almost science fiction-y stuff, but it's that kind of science fiction stuff that isn't just pie in the sky, that it's real stuff that's can be benefiting the human race, it's a really interesting read. He took all that techie stuff and turned it into a readable book, which is totally cool.
Neat. That sounds great, because that interview was a little bit techie, but not terrible to follow. Right. But yeah. Well,
and he's a businessman, so his principles, he can learn the tech, or at least know the tech well enough to know where he wants to invest his money. And he's in that space, so it's a little easier for him. But yeah, I'm not going to say he dumbed it down for us, but he made it readable. He made it something where you can look at it and say, oh, okay, I don't have to know how the microbiome works. I just have to know that it is one of the things that affects my health. And as a result, their ability to analyze it, to be able to maybe even make recommendations on how you can improve it based on what you eat or sleep or stress, because they all have an impact on it. Then you've got practical, real advice that works specifically for you, and all that's just really, really cool. And then of course, replacement parts, things like that. We gets into all that kind of stuff too, and just what constitutes being a human. So it's an interesting book if you like science and you like science fiction. It's just a cool read, and it's not so deep that you wouldn't understand it. He's not trying to throw words at you, that you wouldn't know, or dive down so deep into a rabbit hole that you can't get out. It's just some really cool stuff.
That does sound cool. The interview was great. It was really fascinating to listen to this.
All right. Well, Rachel, I'll talk to you next week.
Great. Take care.
Now, before you go, don't forget to go check out the 40 Plus Fitness Crush the Holidays Challenge. This 5-week challenge runs from November 20th through December 24th. Stay motivated with daily videos, surround yourself with like-minded people in a private Facebook group, and crush the holidays this year with me, Coach Allen. The cost for this 5-week challenge is $25. Oh, and yes, there's going to be weekly winners with weekly prizes, including some of my favorite health and fitness books, Amazon gift cards, 40 Plus Fitness swag, and one challenger will win an opportunity to do a 6-week 40 Plus Fitness online training program I'm launching in January that'll be absolutely free. Check it out at crushtheholidays.com to join this challenge. Don't let the holidays put you further in the hole. Crush the holidays at crushtheholidays.com. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Delatoro McNeil and discuss his book, Shift into a Higher Gear, Better Your Best and Live Life to the Fullest. Until then, have a happy and healthy week.